She went to visit her new man but saw her divorced husband car. What she heard inside shattered her. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. She had kept one dream alive since her divorce, finding honest love, until the moment she heard her ex-husband's voice through her new boyfriend's front door. Danielle's fingers trembled as she clutched her keys, the picnic basket hanging heavy from her other arm. The surprise dinner she'd planned, now forgotten, as Michael's unmistakable voice drifted through the partially open door of Kevin's townhouse. She can't know anything yet. If she finds out, it's over for both of us. Her stomach twisted into knots. The black Mercedes in the driveway, Michael's car, suddenly felt like a warning she should have heeded before ever stepping foot on Kevin's perfectly manicured lawn. Kevin's reply cut through her rising panic like a blade. I told you, I'm only with her to get what we need. Once we have it, she's gone. The picnic basket slipped from her fingers, landing with a soft thud on the welcome mat. The bottle of wine inside clinked against the plates, the sound impossibly loud in the quiet evening air. Have you ever stood frozen in place, listening to words that shatter everything you believed about your life? That terrible moment when trust evaporates like morning dew under a harsh sun? Danielle backed away, her heart hammering against her ribs. 6 months of whispered promises from Kevin, of gentle touches and seemingly authentic connection. All lies. And Michael, the man who betrayed her once before, somehow entangled in this new deception. Memories crashed through her mind. The divorce papers, the mysterious financial irregularities, the threatening phone calls that started right before Michael moved out. Had any of it been what it seemed? She reached her car and slid inside, ducking low as the front door opened. Light spilled onto the porch as both men stepped outside, unaware of her presence just 30 feet away. You sure you heard something? Michael asked, scanning the darkness. Kevin shook his head. Probably just a neighbor's cat. They let it roam everywhere. We need to finish this quickly, Michael said, his voice dropping. Everything's moving faster than we anticipated. I got her exactly where I want her, Kevin replied with a confidence that chilled Danielle's blood. 2 more weeks, tops. 2 weeks for what? Danielle's mind raced through possibilities, each more frightening than the last. The men retreated inside, closing the door behind them. If you discovered the new relationship you believed was healing you was actually designed to destroy you, would you run? Or would you fight to uncover the truth? Danielle started her car, hands shaking so badly she could barely grip the steering wheel. As she pulled away from the curb, her phone lit up with Kevin's name. She silenced it, watching the screen flash with his repeated calls as she drove toward the only place she could think to go, her best friend Beth's apartment. Traffic lights blurred through her tears as questions pounded through her mind. What did they want from her? Was Kevin ever genuinely interested in her at all? And most perplexing, why was Michael involved? When she reached Beth's building, she sat in the parking lot, trying to collect herself. The phone rang again, Kevin for the 5th time. She rejected the call and typed a quick text. Something came up. Family emergency. Talk tomorrow. The reply came instantly. Everything okay? Need me to come over? The false concern made her stomach turn. No, just need space tonight. Beth's lights were off. It was after 10. She was probably asleep or out for the evening. Danielle rested her forehead against the steering wheel, suddenly aware she had nowhere safe to go. A tap on her window made her jump. A security guard peered in, flashlight partially blinding her. Everything all right, ma'am? She nodded, forcing a smile. Yes, just making a call before heading home. As the guard walked away, Danielle made a decision. She wouldn't run blindly. She needed information. Tomorrow, she would return to Kevin's house as if nothing had happened. She would play along until she understood exactly what game these men were playing. Her phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. When she opened it, ice filled her veins. I know what you heard tonight. Meet me at Carson Coffee downtown tomorrow, 7 a.m. Come alone. Your life depends on it. Michael knew she'd been there. He knew she'd heard them, and now he wanted to meet. The question wasn't whether to go, but whether she was walking into answers or an even more elaborate trap. 6 months earlier, Danielle had been a woman reconstructing her life from fragments. The divorce had left her wary, withdrawn, and determined never to be fooled again. "Just black coffee, please," she'd told the barista at the corner cafe, where she stopped every morning before work. "Make that too," said a voice behind her. A tall man with dark eyes and an easy smile stepped up to the counter. "I'll get hers too." "That's not necessary," Danielle had replied, the wall around her heart automatic and well-maintained. "Consider it karma," he'd said. "Someone bought mine yesterday." When they handed her a tea instead of coffee, he noticed her slight frown and immediately offered to trade. "I actually prefer tea," he'd lied, the slight wrinkle of his nose giving him away. Has someone ever appeared in your life at exactly the moment you decided you didn't need anyone? That cosmic timing that makes you question everything you thought you knew about coincidence? What began as exchanged names became phone numbers, which became dinner that weekend. Kevin Latimer was everything Michael wasn't: attentive, transparent about his wealth management business, and seemingly content to move at whatever pace she said. "I've been burned too," he'd admitted over dinner at a quiet restaurant overlooking the Charlotte skyline. "My ex-wife took everything but my name when she left." The connection had been immediate, two people healing from similar wounds. Or so she believed. April rain poured outside the restaurant as they finished dessert, and when he kissed her beneath the awning, droplets falling around them like shattered crystal, Danielle felt something unlock inside her chest, a door she'd sworn would remain closed. "I'm still figuring things out," she'd whispered against his lips. His smile had been gentle. "We got all the time in the world." That first night in her apartment, with city lights painting patterns across her bedroom ceiling, Kevin had moved with a reverence that made her feel treasured. His fingers traced her collarbone, lips following the path as if memorizing her. "You're sure about this?" he'd asked, hovering above her. "Yes," she'd breathe, believing she was choosing this connection, never suspecting she was being chosen for reasons hidden beneath his tender touch. Afterward, tangled in sheets and half asleep, she'd murmured, "I'm carrying more baggage than just my divorce." Kevin's fingers had traced circles on her bare shoulder. "Everyone has secrets, Danny. Some are just better hidden than others." Words that seemed wise and accepting in the moment now echoed with warning as Danielle drove to Carson Coffee, the morning sun barely cresting the horizon. What secrets had Kevin been hiding all along? What had their relationship truly been building toward? She parked a block away, anxiety coiling in her stomach. Through the cafe window, she could see Michael already waiting, his expression grave as he stared into a steaming cup. Their marriage had disintegrated amid accusations of financial fraud and betrayal. The man who had promised forever had disappeared overnight, along with their savings and her trust. Yet here he was, claiming to have information vital to her safety. If you had to choose between two betrayals, the fresh wound or the scarred-over injury, which would you face first? Danielle checked her phone. No messages from Kevin yet. He didn't know she'd discovered their connection. That gave her a slight advantage, however temporary. She stepped into the cafe, the bell above the door announcing her arrival like the opening bell of a boxing match. Michael looked up, relief visible in his eyes. "You came?" he said simply. "Start talking," she replied, not sitting down. "You have 5 minutes." Michael clutched his coffee cup with white-knuckled intensity. The man before her looked nothing like the confident financial advisor she'd married after college. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his once immaculate appearance had grown ragged at the edges. "You need to listen carefully," he said, voice low. "Kevin isn't who you think he is." Danielle laughed, the sound sharp and humorless. "Clearly, and neither were you. What I don't understand is how you two know each other." "Sit down, please." Michael glanced nervously toward the door. "What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible." The cafe smelled of fresh pastries and espresso, the normalcy a stark contrast to the tension crackling between them. Danielle slid into the chair across from him, maintaining distance. "Our divorce wasn't what you think," he began. "You mean you didn't empty our accounts and leave me with nothing but debt collectors calling at all hours?" Her voice remained steady despite the anger bubbling beneath, because that felt pretty straightforward. Have you ever discovered that what you believed with absolute certainty might have been an elaborate performance? A script written to make you believe one reality while another played out in the shadows? Michael pushed a folder across the table. I was being investigated for my connection to Westview Properties. Your biggest client, Danielle nodded. The one whose development deals always seemed too good to be true. Because they were. His fingers drummed nervously on the table. I discovered they were laundering money through real estate transactions. When I threatened to go to the authorities, they made it clear they'd hurt you if I didn't cooperate. Rain began to patter against the cafe windows, distorting the world outside. So you decided to hurt me first? The bitterness in her voice made him flinch. I made a deal with the FBI, he whispered. They needed evidence. I agreed to appear guilty, to let you believe I was criminal, so Westview would think I was compromised and keep me close. Memories flashed through Danielle's mind. Michael working late nights, hush phone conversations, unexplained cash withdrawal from their accounts. You let me hate you, she said flatly. You let me believe you betrayed everything we built. It was the only way to keep you safe. His eyes held hers. They were watching you two. And Kevin? Where does he fit into this fairy tale? Michael's expression darkened. Kevin Latimer is Westview's fixer. When investments go wrong or people ask too many questions, he makes problems disappear. Cold realization washed over her. And I'm a problem. Your leverage, Michael corrected. Against me. They found out I was working with the FBI. They've been watching me, waiting for me to collect enough evidence to bring them down. So Kevin pursued me as what? Revenge? A warning? Initially, but then they realized your signature on certain documents could legitimize transactions I've been blocking. The cafe door opened, bell chiming cheerfully. Michael tensed, then relaxed when an elderly couple entered. Why should I believe any of this? Danielle asked, though doubt had already begun to crack her certainty. Michael slid a small flash drive across the table. Everything's on here. My FBI contact information, recorded conversations with Westview executives, documentation of their operation, and surveillance photos of you. They've been watching you for months, since before Kevin approached you. Danielle's phone buzzed with a text from Kevin. Morning beautiful. Dinner tonight at my place? I have something important to ask you. She showed Michael the screen, watching his face pale. He's accelerating the timeline, he whispered. We need to go. Now. Danielle sat in Michael's car, the flash drive heavy in her palm like a small, digital grenade. Rain drummed on the roof as they sat in the parking garage of her apartment building, engine idling. I can't just disappear, she argued. If what you're saying is true, won't that make them suspicious? If what I'm saying is true. Michael's laugh held no humor. Danny, you heard them plotting last night. What more proof do you need? She stared through the rain-streaked windshield. I need to know exactly what they want from me. Your signature on property transfers. Clean deals to wash their money through. Michael ran a hand through his hair. And once they have it, you become a liability. The implications hung between them, unspoken but clear. If someone you once trusted with your life told you that your new beginning was actually a deadly trap, would you run with them or confront the danger head-on? I'm going to Kevin's tonight, she announced, decision crystallizing. Michael's head snapped toward her. Absolutely not. I'll get him to explain what he's planning. Record it as evidence. He'll know something's wrong the moment he sees you. Danielle turned to face him fully. No, he won't. Because unlike you, I never stopped acting. The bitterness in her voice made Michael wince. I spent months rebuilding myself after you left, she continued. I became exactly what I needed to be. Strong, independent, untouchable. Kevin thinks he knows me, but he only knows what I've allowed him to see. Rain intensified, drumming against the car like impatient fingers. It's too dangerous, Michael insisted. More dangerous than running with no proof except your word. She clutched her purse tighter. I need to hear it from him. For hours later, Danielle stood on Kevin's doorstep, heart hammering against her ribs. She dressed with care. The blue dress he'd complimented last week, hair loose the way he preferred. The recording device Michael had given her felt cold against her skin, hidden beneath her bra. Kevin opened the door, surprise and pleasure lighting his features. "Danny, I wasn't expecting you until later." "I couldn't wait," she smiled, rising on tiptoes to kiss him, fighting the revulsion that threatened to show on her face. "You said you had something important to ask me." His arm slid around her waist, guiding her inside. "I was planning a whole evening around it, but since you're here..." The living room looked exactly as it always did. Modern, minimal, expensive. No sign of Michael's visit. No indication of the conversation she'd overheard. "Why?" Kevin offered, already moving toward the kitchen. "Please." As he turned away, Danielle noticed something she hadn't before. A small safe tucked beneath his desk, partially hidden by an architectural magazine. "Actually," she called, "I need to use the restroom first." The bathroom window overlooked the driveway. Michael's car was parked down the street, just visible from this angle. Knowing he was watching gave her courage. When she returned, Kevin waited with 2 glasses of red wine, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Everything okay?" he asked. "You seem tense." "Just work stress." She accepted the wine, noting how he watched her take the first sip. "You mentioned something important?" Kevin set his glass down, taking her free hand. "Danielle, these past months have been incredible. I've never connected with anyone the way I have with you." His thumb traced circles on her palm, a gesture that once made her melt, now making her skin crawl. "I have an opportunity," he continued. "A property development in Asheville. Exclusive, limited investors. I want you to be part of it." "Me?" She widened her eyes in practiced surprise. "Kevin, I don't have that kind of money." "You wouldn't need to invest cash," he explained, eyes calculating behind his warm expression. "Just your name on some paperwork. Your family has deep roots in North Carolina. Having a Davy involved gives the project credibility. Have you noticed how the most dangerous traps often come disguised as opportunities? That moment when someone offers exactly what you didn't know you wanted?" "What kind of paperwork?" she asked, keeping her voice curious rather than suspicious. "Property transfers, mainly. Nothing complicated." His hand tightened slightly around hers. "I'd handle everything. You just need to sign. And what would I get in return?" The recording device pressed against her skin, capturing every word. Kevin's smile widened as he reached into his pocket. Instead of paperwork, he pulled out a small velvet box. "I was thinking," he said, opening it to reveal a diamond ring that caught the light like a warning flare. "You'd get me." The diamond glittered under Kevin's recessed lighting, 3 carats at least, set in platinum. A ring designed to dazzle, to distract, to seal a deal disguised as devotion. "Kevin," Danielle breathed, forcing wonder in her voice while her stomach twisted with disgust. "It's beautiful, just like you," he replied, sliding the ring onto her finger with practiced smoothness. It felt heavy, cold, a shackle masquerading as jewelry. His lips met hers, and she returned the kiss with a passion born of necessity rather than desire. Every touch now felt like a transaction, every caress calculated. Would you wear chains if they were made of diamonds? How far would you go to expose someone who thought they were manipulating you? "When did you know?" she whispered against his mouth, playing the role of overcome girlfriend. Kevin's smile turned smug. "The moment we met. Some things you just know." Lies flowing as easily as the wine, he kept refilling in her glass. Danielle pretended to sip while pouring her heart into the performance of a lifetime. "The property deal," she said, examining the ring. "Tell me more about it." "Just some land near Asheville. Old family parcels being consolidated for an eco-resort." He waved dismissively, boring business details. "We can go through the paperwork tomorrow." "I'd like to understand what I'm getting into," she pressed. "With the business and us." Something flickered behind Kevin's eyes, annoyance quickly masked by affection. "Of course. The files are in my office." He led her down the hallway to a room she'd never been allowed to enter before. The office was immaculate. Glass desk, leather chair, abstract art on walls. He unlocked a drawer and removed a folder. "These are the preliminary transfers," he explained, spreading documents across the desk. Your family name on these properties adds historical significance that bypasses certain zoning restrictions. Danielle scanned the papers, recognizing Michael's concerns immediately. The ownership chains were complex, designed to obscure rather than clarify. Properties changing hands multiple times within days, values fluctuating wildly between transfers. "This seems complicated," she observed, keeping her tone neutral. "That's why you have me." Kevin's hand rested possessively on her lower back. "I'll handle everything." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowning slightly. "I need to take this. Business emergency. Help yourself to more wine. I'll just be a minute." The moment the door closed behind him, Danielle moved quickly. She snapped photos of the documents with her phone, heart pounding as she heard Kevin's voice in the hallway, tone clipped and urgent. "No, she doesn't suspect anything. Yes, she accepted the ring. Tomorrow, she'll sign everything." She replaced the papers exactly as he'd arranged them, then slipped back to the living room seconds before Kevin returned. "Sorry about that," he smiled, though tension lined his mouth. "Where were we?" "You were about to tell me when you'd like to get married," she improvised, twisting the ring on her finger. Relief softened his features. "Let's keep it simple. Small ceremony, just a few weeks from now. No reason to wait, right?" No reason except the fraud he was orchestrating, the danger he represented. "Perfect," she agreed, rising from the couch. "I should go home, pack some things if I'm staying here tomorrow night." Alarm flashed across his face. "I'll come with you." "No need," she kissed him lightly. "Girl moment. Want to sort through what to bring, what still fits. Surprise you tomorrow." His reluctance was palpable, but pushing would reveal his concern. "Call me when you get home." Of course. The drive to her apartment was a blur, adrenaline keeping her hands steady on the wheel despite the storm inside her. Michael waited in the parking garage, expression tense. "Did you get anything?" he asked as she slid into his car. "Everything." She held up her phone, including his proposal. Michael's eyes widened at the ring. That wasn't part of the plan. His plan accelerated. She twisted the diamond off her finger, dropping into the cup holder like something contaminated. "We need to get this to your FBI contact now. First, we need to get you somewhere safe. Kevin won't wait long before checking on you." As if summoned by his name, her phone lit up with Kevin's number. She showed Michael. "Don't answer," he warned. "He's probably already driving here." The realization struck her with physical force. Her apartment wasn't safe. Nowhere connected to her was safe anymore. "I need clothes, my passport," she began, mind racing through essentials. 10 minutes, Michael conceded. "Then we're gone." Her apartment felt suddenly foreign as she threw essentials into a backpack. Clothes, toiletries, important documents. The framed photo of her parents she tucked carefully between sweaters. A noise at the front door stopped her cold, metal scraping against metal. Someone picking the lock. Michael appeared in the bedroom doorway, finger to his lips, gun in his other hand. When had Michael started carrying a gun? The front door opened. Heavy footsteps entered her apartment. "Danielle." Kevin's voice called out. "Your car's outside. I know you're home." She froze, meeting Michael's eyes across the darkened room. The game had changed. Running was no longer an option. Now it was hide or fight. The bedroom closet became their fortress, clothes pushed aside, bodies pressed together in darkness as Kevin's footsteps moved through the apartment. Danielle's heartbeat thundered so loudly she was certain it would give them away. "Danielle," Kevin called again, voice honey smooth with underlying steel. "Your door was unlocked. I was worried." Michael's arm tightened around her waist, gun held ready in his other hand. His breath warmed her ear as he whispered, "Back door through the bathroom. On my signal." She nodded, though terror had frozen her limbs. The closet door had no lock, just a wooden knob between them and discovery. Have you ever hidden from danger in your own home? Felt that primal fear when familiar spaces become hunting grounds? Drawers opened and closed in her kitchen. Cabinet doors slammed. Kevin was searching, not just calling out. He knew something was wrong. "I saw the photos you took." His voice drifted closer. "Thought you were smarter than that, Danny." Ice flooded her veins. The photos of the documents. He must have seen her screen when her phone lit up with his call. The bedroom door creaked open. Footsteps approached the closet. Michael squeezed her hand once, twice, 3 times, the signal. They burst through the closet door as it began to open, Michael leading with a shoulder, knocking Kevin backward onto the bed. Danielle sprinted for the bathroom, Michael close behind. Kevin recovered with shocking speed, lunging after them. "You don't understand what you're doing." The bathroom door slammed shut. Michael locked it, then shoved the window open. Cold night air rushed in as Kevin's body slammed against the door. "Fire escape," Michael directed, helping her through the narrow opening. "Go!" Metal stairs rattled beneath her feet as she descended, rain making the steps treacherous. Above her, Michael squeezed through the window just as the bathroom door splintered open. A gunshot cracked through the night. Michael flinched but kept moving. They reached the alley behind her building and ran toward Michael's car, parked 2 blocks away. "Are you hit?" she gasped as they rounded the corner. "Grazed," he grimaced, left arm dripping blood. "I'll be fine." The car chirped as he unlocked it remotely. They slid inside, Michael wincing as he started the engine. "He knows," Danielle's voice shook. "About the photos. About us. We need to get this to the FBI now." Michael pulled away from the curb, checking the mirrors constantly, before he can warn the others. 20 minutes later, they entered a motel room on the outskirts of Charlotte. Anonymous, paid in cash. Michael's contact wouldn't meet until morning, unwilling to risk being seen with them at night. Danielle cleaned the wound on Michael's arm, a deep graze that had torn through muscle but missed bone. Her hands remained steady despite the night's chaos, finding strange comfort in the concrete task of bandaging, disinfecting. "Why did you let me believe you betrayed me?" she asked finally, securing the gauze with medical tape from the first aid kit he kept in his trunk. All this time, Michael winced as he tested his arm's mobility. "They were watching you. Your reaction had to be genuine. Your hatred kept you safe. And Kevin? How'd he find me? Not by accident." Michael pulled the flash drive from his pocket. "This contains everything. Surveillance photos of Westview executives, bank records, property deals going back 5 years. And this." He connected it to his laptop, opening a folder labeled with her name. Inside were photographs. Danielle leaving work, shopping at the grocery store, having coffee at Carson's, the cafe where she met Kevin. "They planned every chance meeting," Michael explained. "They studied you for weeks, learning your routine, your preferences. Kevin was chosen specifically for you." The room seemed to tilt beneath her feet as she scrolled through images of her life, captured without her knowledge. A detailed profile outlined her habits, vulnerabilities, financial status. "Why me?" she whispered. "What made me so important?" Michael's expression darkened. "Not you. Your family name on those property deeds. And..." He hesitated. "And what?" "Me. They knew I was still watching you. They used you to flush me out." The final folder was labeled simply "the price." Inside was a single document, a contract with Kevin's signature and a blank line awaiting hers. The terms outlined property transfers, marriage requirements, and a chilling clause about dissolution of partnership after the transactions were complete. A price had been placed on her life, measured in acres and dollar signs. And tomorrow morning, she was supposed to sign it away. Dawn arrived with gray light seeping through cheap motel curtains. Danielle sat cross-legged on one of the twin beds. Michael's laptop opened before her as she absorbed the full scope of Westview's operation. "These property values are inflated by millions," she noted, accounting degree finally proving useful in the worst possible way. "And the money flows through so many shells, it's practically laundered before the ink dries." Michael nodded, wincing as he adjusted the bandage on his arm. "That's why they needed your family name. The Davy property holdings go back generations in North Carolina. Your signature bypasses historical property review boards." The walls of the motel room seemed to press inward. Water-stained ceiling, faded carpet, the constant hum of the ancient air conditioner. A far cry from Kevin's luxury townhouse, or even her modest apartment. "Your FBI contact is late," she observed, checking her watch for the 5th time. Their meeting had been scheduled for 8 a.m. It was now approaching 9:30. Michael paced the narrow space between beds, tension radiating from his shoulders. Something's wrong. Harris is never late. Could Kevin have reached him? Harris is solid, but his superiors. Michael let the implication hang in the air. Have you ever realized that the system you trusted for protection might be compromised? That moment when safe harbors suddenly seem like the most dangerous waters? Danielle's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Meeting compromised. Don't trust official channels. Delete this message. She showed Michael, watching his face pale. We're on our own, he said quietly. What does that mean exactly? It means Westview has connections higher up than we thought. We can't go to the police. We can't trust the FBI. He rubbed his face, exhaustion evident in every line. We need to gather enough evidence to make this too big to bury. Ow! We already have the files. We need recorded confessions. Proof of intent that can't be explained away as business misunderstandings. Danielle considered their options, each more dangerous than the last. Kevin expects me back today, with signed papers. Michael's head snapped up. No, absolutely not. He doesn't know how much I know, she argued. He thinks I just saw the property documents. He shot at us. At you, she corrected. He still needs me to sign those papers. I'm valuable to him, for now. The unspoken, until I'm not, hung between them. It's too dangerous, Michael insisted. More dangerous than running with nowhere to go. She met his gaze steadily. I can get him to explain everything. Record it as evidence no one can dismiss. The debate continued for hours. Strategies formed and discarded as they weighed their limited options. By afternoon, a fragile plan had emerged. Dangerous, full of potential pitfalls, but the only path forward that didn't involve permanent flight. I don't like this, Michael said for the dozenth time as Danielle prepared to call Kevin. Noted, she replied, finger hovering over the call button. But unless you have a better idea, he didn't. The stolen files alone weren't enough to guarantee prosecution, especially with Kevin's connections potentially reaching into law enforcement. They needed recorded intent, explicit admissions that couldn't be explained away. Danielle pressed call, heart hammering as she activated the speakerphone. Kevin answered on the second ring. Danielle, relief colored his voice. Where are you? I've been worried sick. She launched into the story they'd crafted, waking early for a run, returning to find her apartment door open, fleeing to a hotel out of fear when she saw the damaged bathroom door. I thought someone had broken in, she explained, injecting the right amount of tremor into her voice. I was scared. Baby, why didn't you call me? Concern masking calculation. I came by last night to surprise you, but you weren't there. The door was unlocked, so I checked inside. When I saw the bathroom, you paused dramatically. I thought something had happened to you. The lie flowed, smoothly practiced. He'd probably rehearsed it while searching for them. I'm sorry, she whispered. I panicked. Where are you now? I'll come get you. No. She caught herself. No, I need a little time. Last night brought back some bad memories from my marriage. Men showing up unexpectedly. Michael's eyes narrowed at the implication, but he nodded approvingly at her performance. I understand, Kevin's voice softened. But we still need to complete those paperwork today. The investors are waiting. I'll meet you at your office, she offered. This afternoon. Perfect. 3 o'clock. I'll be there. After ending the call, Danielle released a shaky breath. He bought it. For now, Michael cautioned. We have 5 hours to make you bulletproof before you walk into that office. Bulletproof. The word choice wasn't lost on either of them as Michael opened his duffel bag, revealing surveillance equipment more sophisticated than anything Danielle had seen outside of movies. Where did you get all this? She asked as he removed miniature recording devices and a watch with a hidden camera. Let's just say the FBI doesn't know everything I've been doing these past 2 years. Their eyes met across the motel room, understanding passing between them. Both have been changed by circumstances, forced to become versions of themselves they never anticipated. Teach me everything, she said simply. He nodded, laying out the equipment between them like weapons. Your life depends on it. Kevin's office occupied the 15th floor of Charlotte's Tryon Center, all glass and chrome and calculated intimidation. Danielle stepped off the elevator at precisely 3 o'clock, dressed in the clothes Michael had retrieved from her apartment during a risky midday visit. A navy blue dress that meant business while still appealing to Kevin's preferences. The recording device nestled between her breasts, disguised as a delicate pendant on a gold chain. The watch on her wrist contained a backup, insurance against technical failures. Her engagement ring felt like a brand on her finger, heavy with false promises. "Mr. Latimer is expecting you." The receptionist smiled, eyes lingering curiously on Danielle's ring. Kevin rose from behind his desk as she entered, crossing the room to embrace her. She returned his kiss, fighting the revulsion crawling beneath her skin. "You look beautiful," he murmured against her hair. "I was worried about you." "I'm sorry about yesterday," she replied, the script rehearsed with Michael playing smoothly from her lips. "Finding my apartment like that brought back bad memories. Would you walk into the lion's den if it meant the difference between running forever and reclaiming your life? How convincingly could you smile at someone plotting your destruction?" Kevin guided her to the leather couch beneath floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Charlotte spread below them, oblivious to the deadly game unfolding in the glass tower. "Understand completely," he said, hand resting possessively on her knee. "Michael left scars, but that's behind us now." The mention of Michael's name sent ice through her veins. Did he know they were working together? Was this a trap? "I just want to move forward," she said, the tremor in her voice genuine. "With you, with this investment opportunity." His smile widened, a predator sensing prey moving exactly where he wanted. "I have the papers right here." He retrieved a folder from his desk. Just a few signatures and we're set. Danielle accepted the documents, skimming them while mentally activating the recording devices. Michael had warned that she needed explicit statements for the evidence to be useful. "This transfers ownership of my family's historical property holdings," she observed, buying time. "Why these specific parcels?" Kevin settled beside her, arm draped across her shoulders. "They create a continuous property line from the lake to the mountains. Perfect for the development. And who exactly am I transferring them to?" She pointed to the company name, Meridian Holdings, LLC. "I've never heard of them. A subsidiary we created specifically for this project," he explained smoothly. "Tax purposes. A flicker of annoyance crossed his features. "My investment group, including anyone I know." She kept her tone curious, non-threatening. Kevin's fingers tightened slightly on her shoulder. "Just sign the papers, Danielle." "I'm about to sign over property that's been in my family for generations," she persisted, heart racing beneath her calm exterior. "I'd like to know who's involved." The mask slipped just for a moment, irritation bleeding through his carefully maintained charm. Then his expression softened again, calculated affection replacing impatience. "You're right to ask questions," he conceded. "That's what I love about you, always thorough." He rose, moving to a cabinet where he poured 2 glasses of whiskey. "Meridian Holdings is owned by Westview Properties. We're consolidating land parcels for a luxury resort development." "Westview?" She feigned recognition. "Weren't they involved in some controversy a few years ago?" Kevin returned with the drinks, handing her one. "Nothing substantial. Rumors and competitors trying to damage their reputation." "I thought they were Michael's client," she pressed. Before everything fell apart, the trap was set. Would he take the bait? Kevin's expression darkened. Michael Campbell made serious allegations against Westview when he was caught embezzling from his clients. It was a desperate attempt to distract from his own crimes. "You know about Michael?" She injected surprise into her voice. "I make it my business to know about anyone connected to my investments." He sat too close, arm returning to her shoulders. "And to the woman I love." His free hand caressed her cheek, turning her face toward his. "Enough about the past. Sign the papers, and we'll celebrate our engagement properly." The implication hung heavy between them. Danielle suppressed a shudder, knowing what celebrating would entail. A physical claim, staking disguised as affection. "One more question," she said, pen poised above the signature line. "What happens after I sign?" Kevin's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We build a future together. Isn't that what you want?" The lie fell from his lips so easily, so convincingly that for a moment Danielle questioned everything. Had Michael told her the truth? Was she making a terrible mistake? Then Kevin's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, expression tightening momentarily before he silenced it. "The investors are getting impatient," he said. "Sign now, questions later." Her pen hovered above the paper as she made her decision. The next move would determine everything. Danielle's pen touched the paper, a tiny dot of ink marking the moment of decision. She glanced up at Kevin, whose patient smile held an edge of hunger. "Before I sign," she said, heart pounding beneath her careful composure, "walk me through the whole project. I want to visualize what we're creating together." Kevin's fingers tapped once, twice on his thigh, a tell she'd noticed whenever he suppressed irritation. But his voice remained smooth as aged whiskey when he replied. 10,000 acres of pristine Blue Ridge property transformed into North Carolina's most exclusive resort. Golf course designed by Palmer's team, spa facilities, private residences starting at $5 million. The Davy parcels connect critical areas, he confirmed, reaching for a map tucked in the folder. Without them, the project fragments into unusable sections. Have you ever played chess with someone who believes you don't know the rules? That dangerous moment when your opponent thinks you're making mindless moves while you're actually setting a trap? Kevin spread the map across the coffee table. Red boundaries outlined her family's historic holdings. Larger than she'd realized, creating a crucial corridor between two massive property blocks. "And Westview handles all the development?" she pressed, drawing him deeper into explanation. "Along with certain international investors who prefer privacy." His finger traced the proposed resort layout. "These particular clients value discretion over recognition." Money laundering, she thought but didn't say. Instead, she nodded thoughtfully. "Sounds exclusive." "Very." His smile tightened. "Which is why we need to complete these transfers today. The money is ready to move." She signed the first page with deliberate slowness, watching his shoulders relax fractionally. "How did you and Westview connect originally?" she asked, flipping to the second document. Kevin took the whiskey glass from her hand, setting it aside. "Business connections. Charlotte's financial world is smaller than people realize. Through Michael," she kept her tone casual, signing another page. His expression flickered, suspicion quickly masked by practiced charm. "Why the sudden interest in your ex-husband?" "Just connecting dots," she shrugged. "He worked with Westview before our divorce." "Campbell was a useful idiot," Kevin said dismissively. "Noticed irregularities in their accounts, but could be convinced to look the other way, until he couldn't. And then he became a problem that needed solving." The casualness with which he discussed destroying her former life sent chills down her spine. She signed another page, buying time as he continued. "Your divorce was unfortunate collateral damage," Kevin added, hand resting possessively on her knee. "Though ultimately fortunate for me." 3 more signatures. 2 more pages. She was running out of documents and time. "And us meeting at Carson Coffee? Was that fortune too?" Kevin's laugh held genuine amusement. "Nothing in business happens by accident, Danielle, especially when the stakes are this high." The confession hung in the air between them. She signed the final page, mind racing as she recognized the vulnerability of her position. Alone in his office, 15 floors up, with incriminating recordings on her person. "Perfect," Kevin gathered the papers, satisfaction evident in his movements. "I'll have these processed immediately. What happens next?" she asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. "We celebrate." He rose, offering his hand. "Dinner at La Province. I've already made reservations." The restaurant was 30 minutes outside Charlotte. Isolated, exclusive, perfect for making someone disappear en route. "I need to freshen up first," she improvised. "Meet you in the lobby in 15 minutes? His eyes narrowed slightly, but his smile remained fixed. "I'll come with you." "To the ladies' room?" She forced a laugh. "I think I can manage alone." "Of course," he conceded, pressing the elevator button for her. 15 minutes. The elevator doors closed on his watchful gaze. The moment she was alone, Danielle pressed the button for the parking garage instead of the lobby restroom. Michael waited in a service corridor exactly as planned, tension evident in his stance. "Did you get it?" he whispered, guiding her toward the emergency stairs. "Everything," she confirmed. Explicit confession about targeting me, international money movement, the whole operation. "We need to move." Michael checked his watch. "He'll figure out you're not coming back within minutes." They pushed through the stairwell door and descended rapidly, footsteps echoing in the concrete chamber. "The FBI contact?" she asked between breaths. Still no response. "We're on our own." 10 floors down, Michael paused, listening intently. Above them, a door banged open. Voices echoed down the stairwell. "He's figured it out already," Michael whispered. "Alternative exit. Now." They burst through a service door into the underground parking level. Michael's sedan waited 3 rows over, keys already in his hand. "If we can make it to the highway," he began. The elevator chimed its arrival behind them. Kevin's voice carried across the garage. "Find her. She can't leave with those recordings." They ran, no longer bothering with stealth. The hunt had begun. Tires squealed against concrete as Michael accelerated up the parking garage ramp. Danielle gripped the dashboard, heart hammering against her ribs as men in dark suits appeared in the rearview mirror, running toward vehicles. "How did he know about the recordings?" she gasped as they burst into afternoon sunlight. "Someone's feeding him information." Michael cut across 3 lanes of traffic, ignoring angry horns. "Someone who knows our plans." Downtown Charlotte became a blur of glass buildings and crowded sidewalks as they weaved through traffic, constantly checking mirrors for pursuit. "We need to get the recordings somewhere safe." Danielle unclasped the necklace, hands trembling. "Somewhere public." Michael nodded toward her phone. "Transfer the files. Email them to multiple accounts." A black SUV appeared 2 cars behind, keeping pace despite Michael's evasive driving. Have you ever felt the electric current of pure survival instinct take control of your body? That moment when your world narrows to nothing but the next breath, the next move, the next split-second decision? "We've got company." Michael's voice remained eerily calm as he cut down a one-way street, driving against afternoon traffic. Horns blared. Pedestrians jumped back from crosswalks. Danielle fumbled with the watch recording device, connecting it to her phone via Bluetooth. The file transfer seemed agonizingly slow as buildings flashed past the windows. "I need 2 minutes," she said, watching the progress bar crawl across her screen. "We don't have 2 minutes." The SUV had been joined by a dark sedan, both vehicles gaining ground with each block. Michael took a hard right into an alley, narrow passages between buildings barely accommodating the car's width. "Where are we going?" Danielle braced herself as they bounced over uneven pavement. "Farmer's Market," Michael replied, bursting from the alley onto a less crowded street. Crowds, multiple exits, security cameras. The transfer reached 60%. Danielle's finger hovered over the email icon, waiting. They emerged near the sprawling Charlotte Regional Farmers Market. Saturday afternoon crowds creating a human maze through stalls of produce, crafts, and local foods. Michael parked haphazardly behind a loading area. "Leave everything electronic here," he instructed, reaching under his seat for a small bag. "They can track the signals. The recordings will mean nothing if we're dead." He cut her off, pressing a baseball cap into her hands. "Put this on. Stay in the crowds." 85%. 90. Complete. Danielle pressed send on 3 separate emails. One to Michael's private account, one to a journalist whose card she'd kept after her divorce, and one to herself at an old email address Kevin wouldn't know existed. They abandoned the car, merging into the market crowds. Michael kept his injured arm close to his body, pain evident in the tightness around his eyes despite his composed expression. Danielle tucked her hair under the cap, staying half a step behind him as they weaved between vendors and shoppers. "Keep moving toward the north exit," Michael murmured, head down, but eyes constantly scanning. "Don't look back." She spotted them anyway. Men in dark suits moving with purpose through the casual weekend crowd, speaking into wrist microphones, predators among prey. "They're here," she whispered, fighting the urge to run. Walk, don't run. Michael guided her behind a display of summer squash. Running attracts attention. They slipped into a narrow passage between market sections, vendors on either side, creating temporary walls of activity and color. Halfway through, Michael suddenly pulled her into a storage alcove barely big enough for one person. Their bodies pressed together in the tiny space, hidden from the main walkway by stacks of empty produce crates. His arms circled her protectively as footsteps approached, two men moving quickly past their hiding place. Danielle held her breath, Michael's heartbeat strong and rapid against her cheek. For a moment, survival fears faded beneath a different kind of awareness, his body against hers, his breath warming her hair. They're gone, he whispered, though he didn't immediately release her. She looked up, finding his eyes already on her face. Something electric passed between them, recognition of what they'd been through, what they still faced, and something else. Something that had nothing to do with danger and everything to do with the broken pieces of their past rearranging into something new. His lips brushed hers, gentle, questioning. She answered by leaning into him, the kiss deepening with urgency born of adrenaline and rediscovered connection. We shouldn't, she breathed against his mouth. Probably not, he agreed, not pulling away. Reality intruded with the crackle of a radio nearby. They broke apart, the moment shattered by approaching danger. North exit's compromised, Michael assessed, peering through a crack in the crates. We need another way out. Danielle spotted a service door behind a flower vendor. There, they slipped from their hiding place, walking with purpose now rather than caution. Speed over stealth. The door led to a loading dock where delivery trucks idled. Can you hotwire one of these? She asked as they crouched behind stacked pallets. Michael's expression shifted from surprise to appreciation. Who taught you about hot wiring? Criminal Minds Marathon, she admitted. Can you? Don't need to. He nodded toward a truck where the driver had left the cab, clipboard in hand, as he argued with a market employee. Keys dangled from the ignition, ready to commit grand theft auto. Michael asked, a ghost of their old relationship surfacing in his half-smile. Ready to survive, she corrected, already moving toward the unattended truck. Behind them, shouts erupted from the market's interior. Their absence had been discovered. Their time had run out. The delivery truck handled like a refrigerated tank, lumbering through Charlotte traffic as Danielle white-knuckled the dashboard. Michael drove with surprising skill for someone who'd spent his career behind desks rather than wheels, constantly checking mirrors for pursuers. Where are we going? She asked as the city began to thin around them, buildings giving way to suburbs, then rural highways. My grandfather's hunting cabin, Michael answered, taking a sharp turn onto a county road. Blue Ridge Mountains. Off the grid. No one knows about it except family. Kevin has files on everything connected to you, she reminded him. He knew about my morning coffee spot. Not this place. Michael's confidence was absolute. My grandfather bought it under his mother's maiden name. Cash transaction in 1962. It's not connected to the Campbell name in any records. The October sun hung low in the western sky, casting long shadows across rolling Piedmont that gradually steepened into foothills. They abandoned the delivery truck at a rural gas station, transferring to a weathered pickup Michael purchased from the owner with cash and a story about hunting season preparations. Have you ever noticed how quickly civilization falls away once you leave the city? How the modern world seems like a temporary illusion against the permanence of mountains that have stood witness to centuries of human drama. Danielle watched familiar landscapes transform into forested mountain terrain as they climbed in elevation. Cell service disappeared. Radio stations faded to static. The isolation both comforted and unnerved her. Safety in remoteness, danger in disconnection. We need to contact your FBI person, she said as twilight deepened around them. The recordings won't matter if Kevin destroys the evidence on his end. Harris will check in, Michael replied, though doubt crept into his voice. He has protocols for compromised communications. The pickup's headlights carve a narrow path through increasing darkness, illuminating a winding road that grew steeper and rougher with each mile. Tree branches formed a canopy overhead, blocking out stars and deepening their isolation. "Almost there," Michael said after nearly an hour of silent travel. He turned onto an unmarked dirt path, barely distinguishable from the surrounding forest. 2 more miles. The cabin materialized from the darkness, a simple A-frame structure nestled among towering pines. No lights welcomed them. No signs of habitation disturbed the perfect stillness of the mountain night. "Hasn't changed since I was a kid," Michael observed, killing the engine. He reached beneath the seat, retrieving a flashlight and the gun he'd carried since her apartment. "Wait here while I check inside." "I'm coming with you," Danielle countered, opening her door. After everything they'd been through, separation felt more dangerous than whatever might await them in the dark cabin. Fallen pine needles cushioned their footsteps as they approached the porch. Michael tried the door, locked as expected. He retrieved a key from beneath a stone frog statue, weathered green with age. "My grandfather believed in tradition," he explained with a faint smile, the first glimpse of personal history he'd shared since their reunion. The cabin door swung open with a protesting creak. Michael swept the flashlight beam across the interior. Simple furnishings draped in dust covers, stone fireplace dominating one wall, kitchenette tucked in a corner. Decades of family retreats preserved in amber. "Looks clear," he said, stepping inside. Danielle followed, her attention caught by something out of place on the rough-hewn table. A woman's scarf, bright blue against the cabin's muted tones. She recognized it instantly. "Michael," she whispered, frozen in the doorway. "That's Beth's scarf." Michael spun toward the table, flashlight illuminating the delicate fabric. "Your friend Beth." Confusion gave way to alarm. "How would—" Headlights swept across the cabin windows, momentarily blinding them as vehicles approached on the dirt road they'd just traveled. Engines growled in the darkness, multiple vehicles moving with purpose. "They found us," Danielle breathed, the implications of Beth's scarf now horrifyingly clear. Beth told them. She's been feeding Kevin information all along. The betrayal cut deeper than Kevin's deception. Beth had been her confidant after the divorce, the shoulder she'd cried on, the friend who'd encouraged her to start dating again, who'd subtly guided her toward Carson Coffee that fateful morning. "The bedroom," Michael directed, already moving. "There's a cellar access under the rug." They'd barely reached the small back bedroom when the first shots shattered the cabin's front windows. Glass exploded inward as bullets splintered wood and thudded into walls. "Down!" Michael pushed her to the floor as more shots followed. Danielle crawled across rough planks, pine needles from countless hiking trips embedded in the wood pressing into her palms. Michael dragged back a braided rug, revealing a trapdoor set into the floor. "My grandfather was paranoid about government overreach," he explained, lifting the heavy wooden door. "Built this during the Cold War." A narrow ladder descended into darkness. Michael urged her toward it as another barrage of bullets tore through the cabin walls. "Go," he ordered. "I'll hold them off." "Not without you," she insisted, grabbing his injured arm. He winced but didn't pull away. "Danielle," his voice softened despite the chaos erupting around them. "I lost you once by pushing you away. I won't lose you again by keeping you here." He pressed his gun into her hands. "Take this. I have another." Outside, car doors slammed. Footsteps approached across the porch. "Danielle, sweetheart," Kevin's voice called through the shattered windows, falsely gentle despite the violence of their arrival. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You're only alive right now because I convinced them you could still be useful." Michael's eyes held hers in the dim light. A universe of regret and determination and something that might have been love in another lifetime. Perhaps even in this one. "I'll be right behind you," he promised, helping her onto the ladder. "Trust me one more time." She descended into darkness, the trapdoor closing above her as fresh gunfire erupted in the cabin that had once sheltered childhood memories and now harbored only danger. The cellar air hung thick with decades of trapped moisture and earth. Danielle felt her way through absolute darkness, Michael's gun cold in her sweating palm. Above, floorboards creaked with footsteps. Multiple people moving through the cabin. Voices filtered down through gaps in the ancient wood. "Search every room," Kevin commanded. "She's here somewhere." Glass crunched beneath boots. Furniture toppled. The systematic destruction of the cabin played out in cacophonous detail as Danielle pressed herself against the damp stone wall, trying to control her breathing. The trapdoor remained closed. Michael hadn't followed. Faint light suddenly outlined the cellar's dimensions. Emergency lights embedded in the walls, activating on some ancient timer or motion sensor. The space was larger than she'd expected, extending beyond the cabin's footprint. Metal shelves lined one wall, stocked with canned goods and water. A narrow tunnel led deeper into the mountainside. Her grandfather's paranoia apparently extended to building an escape route. Have you ever discovered that preparation you once dismissed as excessive suddenly becomes your salvation? That moment when another person's fears protect you from your own reality? A thud from above startled her, something heavy hitting the floor. Then a dragging sound. Voices grew clearer as they approached the bedroom. "Where is she?" Kevin's voice, tight with barely controlled rage. "Gone," Michael's response, pained but defiant. "Far away by now." The sharp sound of impact, a fist connecting with flesh. Michael's grunt of pain. "Liar. Her car is outside." "There's nowhere to go on foot in these mountains." Kevin again, controlled menace saturating each word. "Where is she hiding?" "Check my pulse," Michael challenged, voice ragged. "See if I care what you do to me now that she's safe." Another impact. Silence followed. Danielle bit her lip to keep from crying out, backing toward the tunnel entrance. The recording devices were gone, left in the car, as Michael had instructed. But her phone remained in her pocket, no signal this deep in the mountains, but still capable of recording. She activated the voice memo function, whispering the date and circumstances, then describing Kevin's arrival and the gunfire. Evidence of attempted murder to complement the fraud confession, if she survived to deliver it. The trapdoor suddenly shuddered, with splintering as something heavy struck it repeatedly. They'd found the cellar entrance. Moments remained before discovery. Danielle backed into the tunnel, gun raised toward the trapdoor. If they came through, she'd have one chance. Limited ammunition against multiple armed men. The wood cracked. Light spilled through widening fissures as the trapdoor gave way beneath continued assault. A boot appeared, kicking through the weakened planks. Then a leg. A torso. She steadied the gun with both hands, finger tightening on the trigger. The figure that dropped into the cellar wasn't Kevin or his men. It was Michael, blood streaming from a cut above his eye, half carrying, half dragging an unconscious man in an expensive suit. "Michael," she whispered urgently. He spun toward her voice, relief washing over his battered face. "You're still here. What happened?" "Who's that?" "Kevin's right-hand man. Knocked him out when they separated to search." Michael propped the unconscious figure against the wall, quickly binding his hands with a power cord. "The others are searching the woods, thinking you escaped. Kevin's coordinating from outside." "We need to move," Danielle urged, gesturing toward the tunnel. "Before they realize you're gone too." Michael nodded, pressing a hand against his side where blood darkened his shirt. The bullet graze on his arm had been joined by fresh injuries. "You're hurt." She moved toward him, but he waved her off. "Later. Go." The tunnel extended 30 yards in a solid rock before opening into a natural cave system. Michael retrieved an ancient flashlight from a wall hook, its batteries miraculously still functioning after years of disuse. "My grandfather mapped these caves," he explained as they navigated the narrow passages. "They connect to the next valley, about 2 miles through the mountain." His breathing grew labored as they progressed, each step clearly causing pain. Halfway through a particularly tight passage, he stumbled, catching himself against the rock wall. "Michael!" Danielle supported his weight as he slumped against her. "How bad is it?" "Knife," he admitted, removing his hand from his side to reveal a deep wound seeping blood. During the struggle, "Didn't want to worry you. You need a hospital. Can't risk it. They'll check emergency rooms." His face had gone alarmingly pale in the flashlight's beam. Danielle helped him to a seated position against the cave wall. The passage had widened into a small chamber where water dripped from stalactites overhead, forming shallow pools on the stone floor. "Let me see," she insisted, gently lifting his shirt. The wound was deep, but had missed vital organs for what she could tell. Still, blood loss and infection posed immediate threats. "I can make it," he insisted weakly. "Just need a minute." In the distance, echoing through the cave system, came the unmistakable sound of pursuit. Voices calling to each other, flashlight beams bouncing off stone walls. Kevin's men had found the tunnel. "They're coming," Danielle whispered, helping Michael to his feet despite his pain protests. "We need to move now." He nodded grimly, one arm around her shoulders as they stumbled deeper into the darkness, the sounds of pursuit growing steadily closer behind them. The cave system twisted through the mountain's heart like a stone labyrinth, passages branching in multiple directions. Danielle supported Michael's weight, his arm heavy across her shoulders as they navigated by the fading flashlight beam. "Left here," he directed, voice growing weaker with each passing minute. Grandfather's maps showed an exit near a waterfall. Blood trail behind them, impossible to hide, easy to follow. Their pursuers' voices echoed through the caves, sometimes seeming to come from all directions at once as sound bounced off the ancient rock. "You need to go ahead," Michael urged as they paused at a junction of 3 passages. "I'm slowing you down." "Not happening," Danielle replied, adjusting her grip around his waist. "We started this together, we finish it together." Have you ever reached that moment when survival means making impossible choices? When every path forward contains equal measures of risk and hope? The flashlight flickered, battery failing after decades of neglect. Darkness pressed around them, absolute and disorienting. Michael fumbled in his pocket, producing a cigarette lighter. "Didn't know you smoked," Danielle observed as the tiny flame illuminated his pale face. "I don't," he managed a weak smile. "Wilderness preparation. Fire lights signal." The small flame cast jumping shadows across cave walls painted with flowing mineral deposits. Amber, white, copper green. Beautiful and indifferent to the human drama playing out beneath the mountain. "They're getting closer," Danielle whispered as voices echoed, more distinctly behind them. "I have an idea." Michael straightened slightly, determination overriding pain. "Give me the gun." She handed it over reluctantly. "What are you thinking?" "Ambush." He nodded toward a narrow passage ahead. "That leads to the exit." Through there, the cave opens into a chamber with multiple passages. Perfect place to turn defense into offense. They moved forward, emerging into a cathedral-like space where the cave ceiling soared 20 feet above them. Water trickled down one wall, feeding a shallow pool that reflected their tiny flame. 5 separate passages branched from the chamber like spokes from a wheel. "Which one leads out?" Danielle asked. Michael pointed to the second passage from the right. "That one follows the water flow." But first, he surveyed the chamber, tactical mind engaging despite his injuries. "Help me move." They positioned themselves behind a large rock formation near the chamber center. Michael checked the gun, 3 bullets remaining. "When they enter, they'll split up to check each passage," he explained. "Wait until they separate." "Then what?" Danielle's heart hammered against her ribs. "Then we take back control." Voices approached, 3 distinct speakers, Kevin and 2 others, closing in on their position. Michael extinguished the lighter, plunging them into darkness broken only by the approaching flashlight beams. "Blood trail leads this way," one voice announced. "They can't be far." "Remember, I want her alive," Kevin instructed. "Campbell is expendable." Footsteps entered the chamber, flashlight beams sweeping across stone formations. Light briefly illuminated their hiding place, passing over without discovery. "Check each passage," Kevin ordered. "Johnson, take the left. Rivera, second from left." I'll take center. Perfect. They were separating exactly as Michael had predicted. Michael squeezed Danielle's hand once, then moved with surprising stealth for a wounded man. She lost sight of him in the darkness as the pursuers' lights disappeared down separate passages. A sudden shout cut short. A thud. Silence from the leftmost passage. One down. More scuffling from another direction. A grunt of pain that wasn't Michael's. The clatter of a dropped flashlight. Two down. Johnson? Rivera? Kevin's voice called from the center passage, suspicious now. His flashlight beam reappeared in the main chamber, sweeping frantically across the rock formations. Campbell, I know you're here. Michael's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. Looking for your friends, Kevin? They're taking a little nap. Kevin's light jerked toward the sound, finding nothing. You think this changes anything? I have more men outside. There's only one way out of these caves. That's where you're wrong. Michael again, his voice coming from a different direction. My grandfather knew these mountains better than you know your bank accounts. Kevin fired into the darkness, bullet ricocheting off stone with a whine. Come out and face me, Campbell, or I start hunting your ex-wife. Danielle stepped from behind the rock formation into the edge of Kevin's light beam. His gun swung toward her immediately. There you are, satisfaction colored his voice. Where's your wounded hero? Right behind you, she replied calmly. As Kevin spun around, Michael emerged from shadows, rock in hand. It connected with devastating precision. Kevin crumpled, gun clattering across stone as Michael kicked it away. Turns out predators don't like becoming prey, Michael observed, retrieving zip ties from Kevin's own pocket to secure his wrists. Let's finish this. The hospital waiting room clock ticked through endless minutes as Danielle stared at the doors separating her from Michael. His condition had deteriorated rapidly after they had emerged from the caves and flagged down a passing motorist. Blood loss, infection, and exhaustion had finally overcome determination. 3 days had passed since their mountain escape. 3 days of FBI interviews, evidence cataloging, an arrest that reached into Charlotte's highest financial circles. Kevin and his associates remained in federal custody, denied bail due to flight risk and the severity of charges: fraud, money laundering, attempted murder. Agent Harris had finally appeared, explanation ready for his disappearance. Internal investigation, suspicion of compromised communications. He'd been pulled from field operations until the extent of the leak could be determined. Beth had been arrested at her apartment, caught attempting to flee with packed bags and $40,000 in cash. Her betrayal still cut deepest. The friend who'd methodically gathered information while offering comfort, who'd guided Danielle toward Kevin with deliberate precision. Have you ever sat in sterile hospital light, watching seconds tick by, realizing how quickly life pivots between endings and beginnings? How sometimes we must lose everything to discover what truly matters. Ms. Davy, Danielle looked up to find a doctor in rumpled scrubs standing before her, expression unreadable. How is he? She asked, rising on legs stiff from hours of waiting. Stable, the doctor offered a tired smile. The infection responded to antibiotics. He's weak from blood loss and will need time to recover, but he's asking for you. Relief washed through her like a physical force. Can I see him? Briefly. He needs rest. Michael lay propped against white pillows, skin nearly matching their color, except for the dark bruises marking his face. For lines ran from both arms. Monitors beeped steadily beside the bed. His eyes were closed as she entered, but opened immediately at the sound of her footsteps. Danny, he whispered, voice rough from the breathing tube they'd removed that morning. Hey, she approached cautiously, suddenly uncertain about where they stood now that danger no longer bound them together. How are you feeling? Like I got stabbed and beaten. His attempt at humor ended in a wince. Harris told me they got everyone. Top to bottom, she confirmed, settling carefully on the edge of his bed. Kevin's international investors were already under investigation by Interpol. This broke everything open. Michael's hand found hers, fingers intertwining with surprising strength. The recordings? Perfect clarity. The prosecutor says it's the most explicit confession of criminal conspiracy she's ever heard. Relief softened his battered features. "It's really over." "Almost," Danielle corrected gently. "There's still the trial. Our testimony. But you're safe." His eyes held hers with intensity that belied his weakened state. That's what matters. The moment stretched between them, laden with unspoken questions about what came next. They'd fought together, run together, survived together. But what did that mean for a relationship built on ashes and deception? "Michael," she began hesitantly, "when you're recovered, we should talk about—" "Not yet," he interrupted, squeezing her hand. "There's something you need to know first. Something I kept from you. About us. About why I really let you believe I betrayed you." Concern furrowed her brow. "The FBI arrangement. You already explained." "Not that." He shifted uncomfortably, wincing at the movement. "Something at the house. Our old house. Something I hid before I left." "What are you talking about?" "Evidence that would have cleared my name immediately." His eyes held regret and determination in equal measure. "I could have shown you. Told you everything from the beginning. Let you hate Westview instead of me. Then why didn't you?" The question that had haunted her for 2 years, finally asked directly. Because they made it clear, his voice dropped to a whisper. "If you knew the truth, if you acted differently toward me in public, showed anything but genuine anger and betrayal, they would kill you." The hospital room seemed to shrink around them as implications settled over her. The depth of his sacrifice, not just possessions and reputation, but her love, all to keep her alive. "I need to show you," he continued, "when I get out of here. The evidence is still there in our old house, hidden where no one would think to look." The weight of their shared past shifted, realignment of puzzle pieces revealing a different picture than she'd carried for 2 years. "Rest now," she whispered, leaning forward to brush her lips against his forehead. "We have time for truth." Autumn painted the Charlotte suburbs in fiery oranges and deep reds as Danielle drove through her old neighborhood. Beside her, Michael directed from the passenger seat, still moving gingerly 3 weeks after his hospital release. The knife wound had healed cleanly, but deeper injuries lingered, physical and otherwise. Their former home looked smaller somehow, the blue colonial with white trim showing signs of neglect under new ownership. Foreclosure had claimed it during the divorce, the bank reselling at a loss to owners who clearly prioritized their investment properties over this one. "They're out of town until Tuesday," Michael confirmed, checking his phone. Harris arranged access through their property manager. The key waited under a flower pot as promised. Danielle lifted it with strange detachment. This place that had once been the center of her world now felt like a museum of someone else's life. Inside, the layout remained familiar despite new paint colors and different furniture. Their wedding photo no longer hung in the entryway. The kitchen where they'd cooked Sunday brunches now featured modernized appliances and countertops. Have you ever walked through memories made solid, recognizing spaces that once defined your life while feeling like a stranger within them? That disorienting sense that time has moved forward without waiting for you to catch up? This way, Michael led her upstairs, where dust motes danced in sunlight streaming through uncleaned windows. The attic access panel in the hallway ceiling looked undisturbed. Michael pulled the cord, extending the folding ladder with careful movements that respected his healing injuries. "It's been here the whole time?" Danielle asked as they climbed into the musty space where Christmas decorations had once been stored. "Where better to hide something than in a house you've been forced to abandon?" Michael moved with purpose toward the far corner, where roof beams met at sharp angles. He knelt beside what appeared to be ordinary wall paneling. His fingers found hidden catches, revealing a false section that swung outward like a tiny door. Behind it lay a waterproof container, unremarkable except for its careful concealment. "I installed this the week I discovered what Westview was doing," he explained, removing the container with reverent care. "Before they threatened you, before everything fell apart." Inside lay folders, flash drives, and a leather-bound journal. Michael handed her the journal first, open to a specific page. I documented everything, his voice softened, including the day they show me photos of you shopping, having coffee with Beth, visiting your parents. The message was clear. They were watching, always watching. If I warned you, if you changed your behavior toward me at all, you'd disappear. Danielle's fingers traced his handwriting, the familiar slant of letters, now recording unfamiliar horrors. April 15th. They know about Danielle's Wednesday coffee routine. Showed me photos from inside Carson's. Said next time it wouldn't be photos. Said accusations against me would be nothing compared to what they'd do to her if I didn't cooperate. Harris says we don't have enough evidence yet. Says I need to maintain cover. How do I protect her without telling her she needs protection? Page after page documented his isolation, his forced performance as financial criminal while secretly gathering evidence. The agony of watching her suffer hatred he'd deliberately cultivated to keep her alive. "You let me hate you," she whispered, echoing words spoken in that coffee shop months ago, but with new understanding. "You sacrificed everything." Not everything. Michael's hand covered hers. "You survived. That was the only outcome that mattered." Sunlight angled through dusty attic windows, catching the gold of his wedding band, still worn on a chain around his neck, hidden beneath shirts until now. "I couldn't leave it behind," he explained when he caught her looking. "Couldn't risk them finding it if they searched the house. Couldn't bear to sell it." The enormity of his sacrifice expanded with each revelation. Not just reputation and comfort, but connection itself. Isolation by design. Hatred as protection. "I understand if this doesn't change anything between us now," he continued carefully. "Too much has happened, but I needed you to know the truth. All of it." Danielle closed the journal, setting it gently atop the other evidence. Her fingers found his face, tracing the still healing cut above his eyebrow, the fading bruise along his jaw. "It changes everything," she whispered, "and nothing at all." His confusion was evident in the furrow of his brow. "I fell in love with you again in that motel room," she explained. "When you were planning our defense, when you were willing to risk everything to protect me. Again. Before I knew any of this. I just couldn't admit it then." Hope transformed his expression, years of practiced guardedness falling away. "Danny," she silenced him with a kiss, gentle at first, then deepening as his arms encircled her. Dust motes swirled around them in the attic's slanted light, witnesses to reconciliation in the very home where their world had once shattered. When they finally separated, Michael rested his forehead against hers. "What happens now?" "Now we rebuild," she answered simply. "Not what we had before, something new, something with complete truth between us." His smile held a vulnerability she'd forgotten existed beneath the protective layers he'd constructed. "I'd like that." They descended from the attic together, leaving behind the evidence of past deceptions and carrying forward only the truth they'd fought to uncover. Outside, autumn winds scattered leaves across the lawn of a house that was no longer home. Because home, they'd both realized, wasn't about the address. It was about the person you trusted enough to show your scars. The one who stayed when